Hey everybody, welcome to the Dune Over episode 6. This will be finishing up the first, are we going to call it the first book of Paul? How are we
At least
classifying this?
I don't know. Like it says book, but to me, it's not like the book. I don't know. Maybe the first section.
Yeah,
like the first part.
Yeah, so this is Paul's innocence. Would we call it that? Or his loss of innocence?
He's no longer a boy.
He got bar mitzvahed in the desert.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
So, joining us is Jennifer. Comics will break your heart on YouTube. Comic books will break your heart on Instagram. Got it straight this time. And Cidnya at Cidnya Reads, another part of the Spice Girls from the show. You can catch her YouTube channel where she's got stuff going on. She is now streaming. Catch her TBR list from last week, and also Something is Killing the Children with Life of a Geeky Mind, which I made an appearance on in chat. I think I was one of the only people interacting with chat for a while.
Yes, that's okay.
And then the Lost Souls book club coming up, and eventually Jennifer and I will be appearing to talk some horror.
Yes, we need to figure that out.
Yes,
some point. But yeah.
And I am Dan, your non-Quizot Rock of this live stream, and Jennifer's gonna choke on chicken.
I am. I'm eating. I apologize.
Not phrasing.
I'm eating. I'm eating my dinner, folks. Okay. Don't come at me, but I'm eating some chicken fingers. So.
And I'm having some spice beer because I want to get drunk in Idaho.
I have some spiced tea.
I have actually melange tea that someone bought from a tea place, so I'm online. So this was a very fast-moving last part of the book, very fast-moving.
I timed myself and I read it in like an hour and 10 minutes.
27 minutes.
You read it in 27 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just whatever.
It went quick for me.
It took me over an hour to read it because
I'm a quick reader to start with. Like that last Game of Thrones book, Dance with Dragons. I thought I was going to take the whole week off to read it, and I finished it in a couple of hours that night.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I'm that dude.
That fast.
Well, I was very engrossed in it. Like, you know how sometimes like you get into the book and you forget what time it is? I stayed up till 12:30 this afternoon reading. And for me, after work and everything, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So let's dig into this. We start off with a disturbance in the house of Atreides.
And this was after the moment between
Thufir and
Jessica.
Lady Jessica.
Yeah.
These chapters, it did something to me. There's so much. I'm like distraught.
They talk about Dr. Yue's mustache and how it's limp a lot, and his purple lips.
On top of his purple lips. So.
Oh, let me take a swig to shed out Mapes.
Yeah, I was like, so much happened in such a short span of pages.
I feel
and really,
Game of Thrones gets compared to this a lot, and I feel like this is that like red wedding moment, or like because there's moments in Game of Thrones where you can like clearly see like, okay, like looking back, you're like, this is clearly the events that like sparked everything. And you can see like all these little moments that are the threads that just weave the story together. And like, I feel like these chapters were what sets everything in motion.
Yeah, I completely agree.
The way they talk about Shed Out Mapes and how like they kept talking about her earlier, you'd think her death would be more of a moment.
Yeah, instead of her just like there dying in the hallway, and I think that he was like, oh, look at her and her like fucking brown sack just laying there. Oh, there's blood. Okay, bye.
Also, I don't feel like she would go out easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a bad bitch. I don't understand. I'm gonna call it uh weakness in Frank's writing. He wanted to get to the good stuff, and
It ran to it. It literally fucking ran to it.
I'm kind of surprised it was so direct, if I'm being quite frank. That was funny.
I see what
I love
you
your
did there.
laugh.
I was expecting a more slow burning intensity, but like he just like punched at it. Cause like I guess we're just gonna dive into it. Like we literally get like right before these chapters, I was like, huh, I wonder who this traitor is. And then like 2 pages in, you're like, actually, it was this guy. And I was like, oh, well, okay.
They kind of tell you the whole time who it is, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like hinted at, but there's still some air of mystery, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Also, like, why the Duke would be taken so unaware. They talk about like he hasn't slept. Like they really dig it. Like the anti-fatigue pills were beginning to wear thin. Been
Yeah,
2 days since the dinner party since he'd slept.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
At
really does need
least.
a nap.
Yeah, and he's just like, blast that damn Duncan, Idaho.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy to me that like he's still aware enough to be like something's wrong, and he like can't place his finger on it until it's just like too late, and even then he's just like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And he's seeing things as gray blobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of
yeah.
interesting. And he finds the smuggler first.
Mm-hmm. He got like choke slammed like to the ground, right?
Yeah. Or he was stabbed in the back, so he like UA, does he get +2 for backstab? Is he an assassin?
The traitor.
Yes.
Traitor to House Atreides.
And then, you know, the part with Mapes where she's like, she sent me, and she can't finish her sentence.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's the last dying breath she's trying to protect, or she's trying to give the Duke some pointers, and he's just like, I don't know what any of this means. It's like kind of funny that like she was stabbed in the back, and then he was like stabbed in the back, and then everyone was stabbed in the back, and it's like lots of backstabbing. Literally and metaphorically.
When it hits him, he's like, the generators, fuck.
Yeah, so Yue, huh? I'm gonna make a side note because like I don't know if it's like I don't know why I thought this, but Yue gave me a lot of like Gendo Akari vibes, and I don't know why, but
probably because of how solemn he is. He's just like,
I guess
I'm gonna put this tooth in you. Remember the tooth.
Remember the tooth.
The tooth.
Remember
I guess we'll get when we talk about the next couple of chapters. I'll talk more about that, but I needed to put that thought out there.
Well, I mean, he didn't scream at him to get in Unit 1, at least.
Yeah. Remember the tooth, though. So yeah, Yue.
He basically tells him, he's like, well, I'm not murdering you, so I'm conditioned in that way, but this is the one thing that'll break my conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
He basically lays out all his information right there, while like the Duke's like, I am high as a kite and I can't feel anything.
Yeah, I love that he literally tells the Duke, like, you were dead anyway, my poor Duke. Like, you should have seen this coming. Like, there is no way this was gonna, like, me doing this in no way affects like the longevity of your life, because this was bound to happen.
Well, even he mused on his mortality for the last couple of chapters, where I'm going to die here.
And even just to see, you know, I know I'm jumping ahead a couple chapters here, but even for the death that the Duke ultimately has, and I feel like it was all for nothing, you know?
I'm gonna let my cat out real quick.
Okay.
Go for it. You know, like this setup, like Yue goes ahead and like puts the tooth in him. Remember the tooth. What you're going to do is you're going to basically clench down on your jaw, and this poison, like, you know, basically like giving him instructions on how to get the poison. Exhale. And then you're going to do it when you're in front of the Baron, and you, like, what was it? Like, I'll be there, but I have to know.
I won't be near you.
I won't be near you, but I'll basically, like, I'll know and you'll know. And then finally, when we get there, and then the Baron is ordering his death, basically, and then he goes ahead and, like, does the tooth thing. I feel like that moment, like, it was tragic because you hear his internal thoughts, you hear him thinking about, I feel like he's not even thinking about his son. He's not even thinking about Lady Jessica. In the Duke's final moments, he's literally just thinking of, like, the sunrise or the sunset, and, like, just very abstract thoughts. And the Baron doesn't even die. Like, that was the whole point of doing this, and the Baron doesn't even die. Like, you would think that, I don't know, that's tragic right there, at least at this point, as far as we know.
It was also like the whole, I feel like we're kind of like he gets to the Duke's head where he's like, I'm going to save them, but you need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica,
and for what? Like, his wife is pretty much already dead, and then Yue dies. So it's like, what was the point? Like, I guess the point was to kill the Baron, but then the Baron didn't even die. So then the Duke pretty much died for nothing.
He was going to die no matter what.
Yeah, but he was going to die earlier.
Tortured.
Or he was going to die later. I feel like this is one of those, like, unnecessary deaths. I feel like it could have played out different, but I think that's just the tragedy of all of it, and it did need to happen for the rest to happen. So
I started thinking when he was like, free Wana, that maybe he meant her freedom would be killing her and stop torturing her.
Yeah, but
I completely agree with you, Jennifer, because, like, I read Duke dying and I was like, it didn't even feel tragic to me. It felt...
It was a thud. That was my hot take. Like, I felt nothing when he died because it's just written, like, you already knew this was happening, so, like, we're just getting it out of the way.
Yeah, there was no, like, I think when you build up so much to that, I feel like not in a like Game of Thrones has some really, really satisfying, like, hyped up deaths that, like, I still feel like they hold up, but, like, I was expecting something bigger and with more oomph, and then Duke Leto dies and for nothing, and it's just like upsetting to me.
You built him up for 3 or 4 chapters now.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the tragedy that this was going to happen either by his own hand, someone else's hand, or, you know, just as it's fated to be. The fact that it's a tooth capsule that basically, like, he's killing himself in order for, like, this greater good purpose, but, like, it doesn't even work. So, like, the tragedy of that is also heavy. And, like, the fact that, like, even in his dying, like, thoughts, he has, like, not one single thought of, like, Jessica, and I was like, well, that's just not right. So I was like, there's nothing really completely satisfying about his death. It only makes me angry, and I was like, I kind of, like, this makes me upset. Like, I'm upset. There should have been more, I think.
Can we talk about the Baron's plan and how scared shitless him and the Emperor are of the Truthsayer? Of having her come, like, nobody wants to know anything. It's like, take her. I don't want to know where she is or what you did with her. Like,
yeah.
Here's a deaf guy, so she can't use the voice on him. We've got her tied up and gagged.
Mm-hmm. And it's
scary
almost
witch
like,
ladies.
Yeah, and, like, even Jessica is like, Paul may end up using the voice even though he's not fully trained, and him just being able to very subtly use it and say, like, remove her gag, and it gets done, like, you know, and then she's able to go ahead and, like, use her voice and, like, the power. That was a cool moment.
There's the Erlon quote of the next chapter that I really like. There should be a science of discontent. People need hard times and oppression to develop psychic muscles.
Yep. That
2020,
one,
baby. 2020.
I was gonna say, like, that one really hit hard. Whenever, like, I was reading it and I'm like, that makes me feel, I feel that with all the civil unrest going on, for whatever terrible purpose or whatever it is. The one beginning
Gotta
of
do it
the
freeze.
yeah, the one beginning quote that really spoke to me in this one, was where it really made me think of Game of Thrones. But at the beginning of the chapter after, was it after or was it whenever? Damn it. Got it. So it's the so it's the one that where the Duke dies. In the beginning, there is a legend that the instant the Duke Leto Atreides died, a meteor streaked across the skies above his ancestral palace on Caladan. That made me think of Game of Thrones, where the comet in the sky was like
Yes,
a
the red
signal
comet.
for everything that was going on. So I don't know, that spoke to me.
Sign of dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely insanity. These like Princess Ireland, like even the next chapters one, like O Seas of Caladan, O people of Duke Leto, Citadel of Leto fallen, fallen forever. I was just like, whoa, this is so much.
By the way, Dr. Yue is kind of like Michael Jackson's doctor that was like anesthetizing everyone to sleep.
Just like passing out not
Anti-fatigue
pills,
pills.
but fatigue pills. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the Baron Harkonnen, where he has a rumbled basso voice, and
Mhm.
the Spencer is holding him up.
I think it's really strange that Dr. Yue would willingly be a traitor to the House Atreides in order for I guess the reasoning is supposed to be like to have his wife free of suffering, but he knew that like that wouldn't happen, and he knew he was going to die immediately once he gave the Harkonnens like what they wanted, and he knew that he would have to like do all of these things, and
Plans
he
within
wouldn't.
plans.
Yeah, and he still was like, yeah, just on the off chance that hopefully maybe the Harkonnens would die, but I think that's like another thing. Like I find it really hard to fathom that. I think that link, something is like disconnected there that makes me like not believe what I just read.
Yeah.
The interactions with the Baron and Piter, and this is why I need Sid here. Oh, Baron!
Pyre died,
Yeah.
and freaking Baron Harkonnen was like, I have no regrets. I would have killed him if I could. And I was like, okay.
Well, that talk between them is like, well, you can go be an exile in the desert with Jessica, or you can be the duchy, and you can have all the women. And he's just like, ooh, Baron, I would be the duchy.
Mhm.
And Piter, you get a little bit more into him, and they start talking about his eyes, and they're like, well, he's not from Arrakis if you listen to his voice. Oh, he's a spice addict.
Mhm.
I'm kind of surprised that it was Piter that like went out. Honestly, I was like, isn't he in better health than like freaking the Baron Harkonnen?
How the Baron's just like, I'm gonna kill him eventually. Like, it's gonna happen. I'll just have the people turn against him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which, like, the Baron's always doing these political moves. There was very interesting, like, how Jessica goes, wait, how would they have it timed perfectly? They'd have to know my weight and everything else. She's like, fucking Yue.
Light bulb.
Yui!
Light bulb.
Con! Yeah.
The one I feel like the chapter that I really saw where the last chapter, whenever we get emo Paul Atreides, where he goes full just like emo teenager, and he's like, nobody understands me because
You
at
made
this
me a
point,
freak!
yeah, and I get it.
What did you do to me? I gave birth to you.
I gave birth to you, dude. And like I felt like in that moment she's just like, I gave birth to you, you ungrateful little shit. But in this moment, because all of these things and all of his like basically his terrible purpose, he's coming to understand it, but it's all flooding in. And because in that chapter, there's this moment where he sees what his future is. He's seeing these waking dreams, and he's like I said, he's realizing his terrible purpose in these moments, because he even makes a mention like where he sees all of these things and he realizes that all of these things that he's seeing were just within a heartbeat. So like just within this 1 second, he sees all of this time. He understands that this is the effect that this spice is having on him. And it made me think too, what Jodorowsky was going to do with Dune, where he wanted it to be a 14-hour movie. And I could just imagine that this moment where Paul Atreides is sitting in his little tent with his mom, basically getting spice drunk for the first time. Like this would have been an hour in Jodorowsky's movie. Like it would have gone through some like wacky wormhole shit. We would have gotten an hour of this, and then it just would have like flipped back. And he would have been like, was that it would have been like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like, we can't stay here. This is spice worm country.
So I have a question. I have a question for everyone. When he's going emo, what is the needle drop song that you'd be playing during that scene?
What do you mean? Like
what emo song would accompany that moment? Like,
Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now by the Smiths. That's
Prayers
that's
for
the
a Rain
song.
by The Cure.
Ooh. You, Dan?
Hawthorne Heights, Ohio is for lovers.
Bye.
It's like the most emo song I can think of. Like, just although like easily like brand new sewing season, just like real slow and moody.
I don't listen to Brand New anymore, so I don't know.
That's like the last song I heard by them. So like,
yeah, I used to know a lot of their stuff, but since it's been so long, I don't remember.
I mean, also Joy Division's Transmission would be another one. Like, well, actually, any Joy Division song, pretty much, except for like "Love Will Tear Us Apart."
I would say like it would need a more slow, moody build up.
Ooh, Ooh.
We're all just thinking.
Yeah.
The If Only Tonight We Could Sleep by The Cure. That would be one.
I'm still
the beginning of a forest.
I'm still saying Prayers for Rain by The Cure. Because like get it, like Arrakis, and it is like a slow, like moody song, but
It can't rain all the time.
It can't rain all the time.
Speaking of rain, I thought it was crazy to me that Paul is like, bro, my dad's dead. Like, and I'm
an empty vessel.
Yeah, he's like, why aren't I crying? Like, I should be crying. Like, am I a bad person? And he's like, I think I'm a bad person. And then like all of these things like flood into him, and he's like, okay, well, Mom, you made me a freak. I texted Dan. I was like, freak. And I was just like, freak on a leash, except by Korn, except Paul's leash is like what he is fated to be.
Oh, what did you think
terrible
of his
purpose.
terrible purpose?
Fuck Paul Atreides. All of my homies hate Paul Atreides. I've decided.
Also, like, when he's just like, oh, by the way, we're fucking Harkonnens.
Yeah, I
Okay.
realize it now. Like, Mom, don't you get it? We're Harkonnens. And she's like, wait, what? No.
Don't you see our hairlines?
Once again, to that Game of Thrones moment. Sorry.
I have some. No, it's okay. Well, actually, this kind of ties along to that. I was like, I have some serious bones to pick with the weird eugenics aspect of this book, with the incest stuff of this book, with the like the queer coding of a villain.
That wasn't fucking coding. That was like literally
That
bring
was-
me a young boy.
And
Yeah,
here's
well,
what I would say
actually-
to that is it's not even queer coding. Like, to me, it's more pedophilia coding.
Yes.
To the villain. Yeah.
By the way, the person we had on the Dune live stream that I'm no longer friends with said that he would lean more into the pedophilia to make it true to the character in the movie.
When we originally did it, I'm like, that's one of the things that just needs to be cut out. Like, we don't need that in the movie. If we're going to do a remake, we don't need that. And he's like, well, the source material. And I'm just like, fuck the source material. Like, if that needs to go, it needs to go. Like, it's fucking 2020, as shit of a 2020 as it is.
I think it's
Denis Villeneuve. Denis
writing.
Villeneuve's been pretty sensible with stuff where he's like, look, there's not enough women in this.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Leah Kynes, not only is he a woman now, but an African American woman.
Mhm.
So go
back
ahead.
to your point about like the eugenics stuff, and like where I got the Game of Thrones moment where it's like Prince Joffrey, blonde
Mhm.
of hair or whatever, like it made me think of that. Like, I don't know, maybe I could probably research it, but I don't know whether this book, how much it influenced Germ, but I could definitely, like, this is why Game of Thrones like gets related to Dune so much.
Well, Paul became
Mhm.
the T-800 too when he's like looking, he's like genetic markers. All I saw was like the Terminator thing as he's looking at her going, and the
Mhm.
readout, like it was just weird.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
back to
I
your
was- Oh no, you can say what you're gonna say first.
I was just gonna say, like, to your point of whenever Paul is like, my dad died, but I don't feel anything, and he's just like, this is a fact, like all the other facts. It's the same thing. Like, it's just a thing that happened, I guess. I don't know if that's just his way of accepting it, but I was like, really, dude? Like, you're emo. You should be more emotional about this. But okay, go on.
I have so many thoughts. Well, to go off of what you just said, I feel like that's such a very strange, like, tonal shift for Paul as a character, and it's so
Sudden.
like it's so like especially because like it makes like Duke dying like even more sad, because one of the few memories that like flooded his like head was like him flying a kite on Caladan and like Paul smiling and like Duke was like, oh yes, my son. So like in his dying breath he's like, I love this kid. Doesn't even make mention of like the love of his life, and then just fucking dies. And then Paul is just like, actually everyone dies, so like why should I cry about my dad dying?
Oh, when Paul drops it on Jessica, like, he trusted you. He put on the act. He loved you. He wanted to wed you.
He wished he
And
would have made you his duchess or
Her
whatever.
Bene Gesserit training finally just breaks.
And she's like, this isn't good water discipline.
Yeah.
Mhm. She's like, I'm
not crying,
wasting.
you're crying. Yeah.
I just like, you ungrateful little shit. I was like, it reminded me like reading that. I felt like the like character from like Hereditary, where she was like, "Don't you ever say anything bad to me. I am your mother." I was just like, I hate you, Paul Atreides, and whatever I'm going to read about you now from now on, I'm gonna want to kick you in the nuts every single time you say anything.
I mean, how much would that fuck you up though if you saw like your whole life in an instant, like all these different realities all of a sudden before you, and a bunch of them leading to your dad's skull, the Atreides colors, and you're now a religion raiding all these worlds.
Well, I feel like because I've consumed a lot of media where like characters have experienced things like that, and I think it's really easy to think of like Shinji Ikari, like having all of this knowledge of like what's going to happen and stuff like that. Especially like I find it's there's just a lot of really poor writing choices, I think, that probably don't hold up because it's really stark. It's very it shifts so quickly, and it's so 180 from like the boy like just a couple of chapters ago who was like he's being cocky, but like he's put in his place. He's like, oh, I guess my dad tells me I should be scared. Like, oh, I'm kind of like scared about my dad dying. Like, oh my god. And then all of a sudden he's like, actually, I don't care.
I'm gonna look for the navigators on the screens.
Even because like he's saying he doesn't care and that he doesn't want to cry before he even has all of these things flooding in his head. And so like I don't know, very strange to me. Didn't make a lot of sense.
I just got a message from Sid. Hi, I'm drunk, but please do not fail to mention how my Duke killed the Baron's Mentat assassin and the captain of his guard while he was drugged beyond all reason. Big dick energy.
There we go. Coming in.
Thank you, Sid. We love you.
Thank you.
With the hot takes. Shit. I had a thing and I forgot. What were we just talking about? Cidnya, what were you just saying?
Oh, I was talking about how it's okay. I was just talking about how like I think the writing of Paul was very just weak, and I don't think it holds up anymore. I'm sure it probably was fine when people read it in like the 60s, but now I'm just like, that's too quick. That was insane.
It felt like he really wanted to get to the end of this. Like, all right, like this book's going way too longer than I want. So like, let's just run.
I don't know if you guys have like kept up with Rick and Morty, but there's an episode of Rick and Morty where Rick gives Morty like I forget what happens, but it's like a time machine, but not a time machine, but like something that guides him to a future where he can be with Jessica. So there's one reality where he can be with Jessica, and there's all these moments where like if he goes this way, he's with Jessica, but if he goes with this way, he's not.
Yeah,
and like
I know
basically
exactly
through the whole episode, he's like he doesn't know where to go because he wants to get to this end where he ends up with Jessica, like by his bed. But in reality, or like, you know, whatever reality that is, whatever path that is, he's not really with her. So anyways, that's what this moment with Paul reminded me of, because he's like trying to see all of these paths that he's going down. And he even mentions, he's like, wait, we can't do this because, you know, I do see that future, but we can't go down that one because we have to go through here. So I just thought that's what it reminded me of, was Rick and Morty.
Which he talks about how he is the seed. Which now, like, definitely I know that Herbert had the rest of the books planned out, at least most of his arc. Also, like, Paul mentions in this, which I guess I didn't really notice till later on in the series, where he's like, there's a path I just can't go down. I won't go down. And I always thought it was the jihad when I read it. And it is not.
Yeah, it seems to me like his end goal is to personally fight. Like, I guess, well, I mean, everyone who's watching this already has spoilers, but with the reveal that, like, of the incest fate pool, as I'm going to call it, they are Harkonnens, but that would mean Baron Harkonnen is his grandfather, and it seemed very, like, Star Wars-y, like, I am fated to defeat my grandfather. That was the path he wants to take.
The hello grandfather scene where he's seeing of himself.
Yeah, and then the other one was, what was it? Where he basically was putting people on the path of war and violence, and he was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then
because
also
he always
he's like,
sees people. Like through all of this like stuff, he always like he sees people. Like that's his end game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, by the way, Mom, you're pregnant and you're having a daughter named Saint Ali of the Knife.
Yeah.
And it's just she's just like,
Spoiler alert, Mom.
yeah. Like, oh god, that would be the millennial version of this going, spoilers, Mom, you're pregnant.
Yeah, he's literally just like, I know I'm gonna have a sister on here, so chop chop.
Like, I would not want to go to the movies with him.
And then it's kind of, there's this sad moment too where he's like looking at all of these versions of the future, all these paths that he can go down, and then he's basically like, now that I've ingested so much spice in these like last couple moments, I'm addicted and I can't leave now.
Spice
Like
life.
spice life, like that's literally like there. He's even saying like we can't leave Arrakis now. Like we can only leave Arrakis if we bring it with us because now I'm addicted to spice.
A trap.
The planet's a trap. So now that we were here, I have to stay here. Like I'm going to live and die on this planet, basically. Like if I plan on going anywhere, I have to, always have spice.
My green eyes are going to turn blue.
Yeah. So I think that there's a moment of sadness, and maybe it's that moment of sadness whenever people who live in their hometown and they're like, I'm going to start a family and I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to live and die in the same town where I was born. And it's like that moment of realization, like maybe that's not a good thing, but it's where I'm at.
Yeah. I want to a little circle back to like the seed, because like the moment when like Paul's like, oh, I know what I am, I'm a seed, I instantly was like, oh, foreshadowing, because it reminded me of like that kind of like religious idea of like sowing the seeds of destruction, and like the philosophy of like the seed of destruction, which I think is like 18th century like musings on religion. I don't think it's like a widespread thing, but it's definitely like people like who I it's supposed to be that kind of mentality of like, instead of like people being willing to sin for the sake of like atonement by their god, it's more so that like the idea that like people sow their own destruction by being like people kind of thing, and that they're kind of born to be like their own destruction. And that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, oh no, this is not good.
Can I, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I watched a documentary a few months ago called The Family. Are you aware of this?
No,
I can't remember if it's on Netflix. So it's basically this religious group that silently has a hold of like every single conservative, Republican, like Christian politician who, like, you often hear about these conservative politicians who cheat on their wife, but then, all of this stuff. So if thinking about that, and like basically what The Family does is they do all of these like Christian prayer breakfasts and things like that. And they are super okay letting like conservative Republican men, politicians, male politicians who have like fucked up, cheated on their wife, or have like done crimes, because they're like, we don't want like the good flock. We want people who've done bad to come back. It's weird. Watch I think it's called The Family, and I think it's on Netflix, and it's weird, and it's conspiracy theory shit, but it goes right into like that type of mentality of we don't need everyone to be good. We need some bad people on our side.
It's on Netflix.
Okay. It was good, but it won't make you feel good. I don't know how else to describe it, but
this is based off that Jeff Charlotte book. Okay, I have read that. Yeah. Actually, it's fucking fascinating.
Yeah, I couldn't read the book.
Yeah, no, it's all it made me think of, because like there's so many terrible purposes. Paul really being like, maybe I'm not a good person, actually. Maybe this is what it's supposed to be. And I'm like, if you're going to go like head to head with like, if your idea of like the best outcome is like killing your own grandfather, like you're fated to basically like be the seed of your own destruction by like being a false prophet to people who will idolize you, and not trying your hardest, it seems, to not like put them in the way.
So many different ways by being called the seed. Also, like, is maybe that's why he turned emo, because he realizes he's the villain in the story that he's written. Yes,
Oh,
I'm quoting Death Cab, but
I just
sorry.
no, it's okay. That was just doing that.
That's okay. So I don't know if on your end you can see Barbarian's comment about it's easier to control someone if they are afraid
not
of you,
yet.
and politicians fear public opinion most of all. So I think
The Emperor
that
definitely he
yeah.
wanted to keep his hands clean, but everybody knows the
And-
Sardaukar when they show up.
And even the Baron was, there's this moment where he's like, it's a shame that everyone has to see the Duke this way. It's a shame, like even like royalty shouldn't be treated like this. And that, once again, total Game of Thrones movement. And I'm not necessarily comparing, what's his name? Lannister, Tywin Lannister. Like,
Tywin.
I'm not comparing Baron Harkonnen to Tywin, but it felt like that, right? Because even though Tywin Lannister did some fucked up shit for a good majority of like his moments in the books, he still had this sense of like honor for.
Same with
like,
Jaime, where Jaime,
yeah.
he killed the Mad King. Basically had his name ruined, but he's like, I saved the kingdom. Nobody knows this, but.
And instead of being called, like, because he, gets called the Kingslayer, but he even mentions, what would you do if the king said to kill your father? Like, do you become a traitor to your family? Yeah, 100%. I guess it worked out in his favor.
Also, like, Yue's inner thinking, where he's just like, I'm going to be known as a traitor forever. Like, it's just what I'm going to be. And when he gets killed, when the Baron finally sees Piter do something, he's like, oh, that's his move. Cat quick with the knife in the back.
Claw-like.
When he dies, what was it he said? Like, oh God, where is it? When Yue dies, he says those words and it freaks the Baron out.
Oh, like, you think that I didn't know what I was doing? Like, how foolish of you. It's like something along those lines. Let me see. I know I highlighted it. Oh, it's so funny because wait.
You think you defeated me. You think I did not know what I bought for my Wana. I can't do it quite Shatner, but I'm reading that as William Shatner.
I thought of it more as like a struggle. Like, you thought I'm totally gonna
bastard.
Whenever we do community theater Dune, I'm totally gonna overact this.
It's weird because forever I wanted to read him as George Takei. Oh my. Hello. And just that whole join her, and what he says like fucks the Baron's head up so much where he starts doubting himself.
Yeah.
Again though, like when Leto dies, I'm just sitting there going, this is underwhelming. Like, even his thought process of what he's going through. Although he keeps remembering the sunrise, like it's.
And that to me makes it tragic because he's not thinking of Lady Jessica. He's barely even thinking. I mean, in my opinion, he's barely even thinking about his son, and it's so. I feel like he deserved a whole like chapter of his inner monologues in his death.
Also, Piter being called effeminate with a silky voice. They dragged that up quite a bit.
Yeah, and they were gray blobs.
Yes, great, lots of gray blobs. Again, like the writing on these chapters, it feels rushed. I don't know why he was rushing.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the Duke deserved more of a moment in his death, where
Yeah.
Paul gets the boys in the hood moment, where he's like punching the ground. Like his reactions were like he got more reaction moments than the Duke did during his death, although he was drugged.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's so convenient. I feel like that's a giant flaw in Frank's, like a very like red warning sign of his writing style, is that it appears to me that he was like, I want to get to where I'm going, so like I need to wrap this up. And you lose a lot of like, because like he's character like the Duke Leto's like characterized as like, even though he's asleep, he's trying so hard to like keep all of these threads in his head. He's trying so hard to like
When he's
make
like,
sure.
my son and Jessica, if I'm hearing this correctly through the drugs, they're safe.
Yeah, he's so
Yeah.
alert still while being like fucking high. And he can have these like thoughts, but like you meaning to tell me that he would rather like tooth capsule being like, all right, let's hope this works, and just sadly limp to his death without any single thought to like his legacy or anything like that. I find it hard to believe. Like I said, my suspension of disbelief, like I read it really quickly and like a lot was going on, and it's not like it's like terrible writing, but I think it's so blatantly obvious that he was just like, I don't care about Duke Leto anymore, we need to get to Paul, and I don't like that.
But he went into incredible detail about the Sardaukar cutting off his crest from his uniform.
Priorities.
Yeah, like it was one of those things where they went into great detail about that, and then other things they kind of just let go. Also, I kind of love the court of public opinion going on in this, where the Harkonnens want it to be known that they took down the Duke, where the Emperor's like, I don't want my name brought up in this. I don't want to be known I was involved with this because everybody loved the Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a chapter beginning, or was there a quote that maybe Paul said about how, oh yeah, I just found it. People are the true strength of a great house.
Yes.
Paul thought. And so, like, it makes sense that the Emperor is like, actually, I don't want to get shit on for the rest of my life, because everyone loved the Duke, and the Duke had loyal followers until the very end, and that will supersede him, because I'm sure that the Atreides boys will try their best to do what needs to be done for Paul when they do find him.
Well, even going as far as like the Sardaukar dressed up in Atreides uniforms and started attacking the guild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
to make sure they were stranded.
Yeah, so that the guild would think it was the Atreides. So, yeah, a lot of masterminding. It's like the writing was so good for the masterminding of plans, but like it lost characterization. So I think from reading forward, I think I'm going to be paying attention to how plot unfolds versus character development, because I feel like I'll probably find holes in it as I read throughout. Or maybe not. Maybe, yeah.
I wish that this book was written more of that like Game of Thrones style, where it's one
POVs.
that one character perspective each chapter, because that, and I know I've mentioned it before, like the flipping of like character perspective. I think that that's what makes the writing really choppy and hard to follow. So like you're right, like I think if you use it from that perspective of I'm just reading it for the plot and not for the character, you notice that less.
Mm-hmm.
Like going forward, like we now know Paul is he's like Jessica's like, oh, his mentat training kicked in weirdly, and then he's like, no, I'm a freak.
Yeah, I'm not an mentat yet. And then he has that moment where he's like, well, maybe I'll actually be accepted among the Fremen because I'm a freak, or because I'm not like, I exist between all of these worlds. Like I'm an outcast among outcasts.
He even has that moment like, I'm hiding and I'm the Duke now. I have his ring.
Mm-hmm. It's just strange to me, the flooding of his powers. I completely read it, and I think it's supposed to read like that. Like this is his puberty, like, and I found that odd. I don't know why. I didn't like that either.
It was
I was
very sudden, even for Jessica. She's like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like he
hmm
didn't talk the whole time the damn thopter, except to "Don't touch my mother,"
Mm-hmm.
which they were blatantly like, "Oh, I've never had a highborn. Let's fucking rape her."
Yeah. Once again, I think that this is one of
yeah.
the moments that they're going to need to leave out of the movie. And just not,
hmm
just not.
Yeah.
I think they'll threaten violence against her. I don't know if it'll be rape.
I
They
hope that
fucking
they
better
leave it out.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the, like,
We
once
were
again,
we were just talking about this with the crow.
I
Mm.
think that this is one of those, you can go ahead and you can switch all of like the male characters to female characters that you want. But if one of the predominantly, like the predominant female characters in it still gets threatened with rape, like you're still not doing any of the women in the book any justice or in the movie any justice if, you can't leave that out and change it.
hmm Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I had, like I said, I have so many bones to pick about like the things that I don't think that's necessary. I don't think the inclusion of like predatory men is like when it comes to like Baron Harkonnen,
Oh, get
does
me that
anything.
boy. Oh my god. And it's just
Yeah,
like
that
the one
boy
that looks
that
like young
looks
Paul.
like young
That looks like
Paul.
Paul.
Oh my god. It's just like, what the fuck? And I don't care if it's 1965. Like, how the fuck did that even, like, so the editor go, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Like, queers are evil back then.
Yeah. I mean,
I had to just like, really? I was just kind of like astounded, especially because like there is like that it like we read that after like and then we like get contextualized that like, oh, that's his grandfather, like, oh, this is like a eugenics masterminding to like create like to have Paul be like this thing that like an organization wants to utilize as like a tool for like advancement, that I'm like, really?
I like when Jessica's like, I need to go to the breeding chart, and he's just like, no, I'm something new.
Yeah, yeah. This was too much for me to handle. I was like, I like how I don't know how relevant it is to the story. I was like, is this purely for shock value? Is the predatoriness supposed to be like a lazy the only thing I can think of is like
How
in
evil he
JoJo,
is.
yeah,
I really think that's
yeah,
he'd fuck a child.
it reminds me of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where like Araki's like main like thing about like, oh, to really show how evil a villain is, like they will be the ones to like harm an animal. And in Araki's eyes, that's like the worst thing a person can do is like exert cruelty over like weaker sentient beings. And then like, and it's so annoying to read because it's like a writing hubris that's like, you didn't know how to characterize someone, that you were just like, that's what they do bad. And like, which again, I just feel like the characterization of these chapters was just off. It didn't hit. I didn't like it, and it just sucks.
That last chapter of Paul, was that like the biggest info dump they ever could have fucking done? Like, even Hickman would be like, this is too much.
yeah, Hickman was taking notes. He was like, this is how I want to write, but I'm going to do it different. Yeah, especially with a lot of the foreshadowing, maybe, I guess, that you don't even get to see in this book. So
Yeah, like,
I
it
don't know.
was weird because it was just like, I'm gonna dump all this shit about what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. From this chapter on, you know what's happening.
In this chapter, and I really have to like give all the credit to you, Cidnya, for this. I really feel like in this chapter, one, I picked up on how often terrible purpose is mentioned, and
Mhm.
then how much, and maybe it wasn't just the last chapter, maybe it was the previous ones, how often it's said that, sorry, my cat's trying to eat my chicken. Oh my God. Sorry. And not just that, but then the threes.
Mhm.
I feel like, oh my God, this cat. All of the threes that are mentioned, like all the things that are mentioned in thirds, like I have to, like, hats off to you, my lady, for noticing that.
The OC Bible gets mentioned a lot.
Come on, dude. Sorry.
I noticed. I that was one of those things, like, the OC Bible keeps getting mentioned, and I'm just like, what? I don't remember it having really a purpose in it other than it exists.
And just to be that link to the past, and because, correct me if I'm wrong, the OC Bible basically had a lot to do with how, like, the modern religion and the anti-technology stuff formed.
Yeah, post Butlerian jihad.
Yeah, so which isn't even really mentioned in this book.
I just like Cidnya's blank look, like, I don't know what the
Yeah.
fuck you're
Yeah, I was
talking.
like,
Yeah.
you definitely said some words there.
Mm-hmm. Don't worry,
I saw
we will
my
get
future.
a chance. Don't worry, we will get a chance to apparently read all of the fucking books in the series before the movie comes out. So, you'll learn before the movie comes out.
Oh, Cid will quit before we ever get to God Emperor.
Yeah.
Apparently, that is her one book where she's like, nah.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna read Chapter House. We're gonna read
the one I remember least.
What's that?
It's the one I remember least.
We're gonna read Mentats of Dune. We're gonna
when
go
the
through all
slutty
of
Bene Gesserit show up from the other side of the galaxy.
Good for them.
Was it you who sent me that meme the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good for them. I think it's interesting that there's all of these plot threads with, like, what the Bene Gesserit want, like what the Emperor wants, what the Harkonnens want, what the Atreides house is trying to even, like, understand of, like, what it means for their, like,
what Atreides house.
Yeah, exactly. It's like where they're displaced. They don't feel like they have homes, which is an interesting thing because I know Jen has always mentioned how, like, there's a really big, like, colonization, like, ecology of, like, planet materials that goes on there. So it's, like, interesting that, like, people who are displaced and now tied to a planet they cannot leave will eventually go down this road. And Paul being like, oh, I'm like this, I'm a freak, I'm like a seed, like these are my gene lines, and like this is like I'm gonna have to defeat my grandfather at some point. And it's like weird to me that, like, he has this option that the Duke gave him to be like, I say false prophet loosely because it's like they're aware that people will think he's a prophet, so he's to utilize that for, like, political and societal gain for, like, the safety of him and his mother. But, like, as a 15-year-old, can't you just be like, maybe not? Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like,
also, he casually mentions, he's like, hey, mother, where's the atomics at? Let's get them back, just so we can threaten them to blow up the fucking planet and ruin the whole ecology.
And it's very strange to me that, like, we would have a character who's like, I know I'm gonna be a bad person, and, like, why would you just, you could just not, like, if you know all of these things of, like, what people want from you, why would you? Well, I don't know. I guess in fiction, I personally like that trope of, like, going against, like, fate. That's, like, a thing I really like people who are just, like, insane enough in, like, time travel or, like, sci-fi where, like,
Terminator,
they know that
fate is what you make.
Yeah, where it's like, I don't care if people think I'm a bad person and, like, their perceived ideas of, like, possible futures. I know who I am and I have moral grounding. But I guess it's like he's 15, so I guess he's conditioned to just be like, accept these things of the universe as fact.
And he's
but,
like, by the way,
so annoying.
They're gonna call me Moadib, the way. I point the way, and they're gonna hide us. We're gonna be part of them, and yeah, so this is the thing, Mom. So we're going to go do this. And she's just like, what in the fuck is going on? Like, literally, she's like basically being like mansplained by her son.
It's like
Teenage
another
boy
thing.
splained.
Yeah, it's also like so strange to me that Jessica is one of like the most powerful like Bene Gesserits like around, and like yes, she's pregnant unless like the love of her life just died. But like I was like, how can you just sit there and let like your fucking son just like school you like this? And I was like, don't you have any plans? It was like you have a network of space witches that you could fully utilize, and like despite you like not following rules, it's not like they would like just completely cast you aside unless like Frank has like completely mischaracterized their organization in this first half to make that not.
What did we learn the Bene Gesserit's
They
like
hide
house
themselves.
motto is? The Bene Gesserit house motto
Serve.
is we exist only to serve. So as much as I love my BG girls, like they exist
like,
only to serve. That's literally the motto, their motto in the book.
Where he starts digging, he's like, Mother, you're thinking I'm the Kwisatz Haderach. Put that out of your mind. I'm something unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I got to get word out to one of the schools. The mating index may show what has happened. And he's like, they won't learn about me until it's too late. And like literally, he's like, be prepared to appreciate. Or the Fremen have a saying too. They credit to Shai Hulud, Old Father Eternity. They say, be prepared to appreciate what you meet. And he thought, yes, mother mine, among the Fremen you'll acquire the blue eyes and the callus beside your lovely nose from the filter tube. And you'll bear my sister, St. Alia of the Knife. And it's just like, dude, chill the fuck out. Like,
yeah,
I think it's so bold of Frank to write some of the coolest fictional women
still make them subservient.
And still make them absolutely fucking like I hate it. Thank you. That's my 2 cents. It's astounding to me.
Them saying that they exist to serve, of course, is like a motto to make people underestimate them. If I was to like put my thinking hat on about it. But at the same time, they're manipulating everything from the background, and people are scared shitless of them. Especially the truthsayer, who, you know, they're rare that the truthsayer come around because you have to go through the spice agony, which we will get to. But like literally, that's why the Harkonnens and everybody are like, oh no, I don't want to know a fucking thing. You go out there and I'm gonna fucking kill you when you come back, so I literally know nothing.
Yeah, like, but that's what I mean is like there's such a strange dichotomy about like how he writes these like very powerful women. It's like they're powerful when they need to be and in the shadows and lurking and like orchestrating, but like you put like Jessica in the front line of like, and she can't use her thinking cap and can't figure anything out, and it's just Paul that's going to be like, this is our life trajectory now.
Well, he's even like, why hasn't Mom figured this out? Like, why am I telling her?
She's so slow to all of these things.
Yeah. So my thinking is this because of the time it was written? Or is this just where he was at mentally?
I think I would say it's a little bit of both. I think that, yes, this is completely how most men treated women at the time. Even, like I said, you can still have this idea of like, oh, we're going to give credit to women and I'm going to be a progressive male. But if you only, like, you know, if someone is a progressive male, if you only treat women with respect, the only women you treat with respect are the women you want to fuck, then that's really not respecting women. So I feel like it's kind of that mentality. Yes, thank you, because Joss Whedon can write some of the most incredible stories, supposedly, write some of the best like characters, female characters. But then if you cheat on your wife and you're like, oh, but I had all these hot young things around me, what was it boy to do? You're really not that progressive of a feminist, Joss Whedon, and I will die on that hill.
Me too.
But by the way, in case you're wondering why we say the time it was written, if you're just joining us, it was 1965, which, again, still in a time that even if you look at pop media back then, the women, it was always like a surprise if they're smart and, able to be strong. Like Wonder Woman was a thing that pissed people off. I'll put it that way.
Here's kind of my hot take on that is that it's not like this entire culture, like, it's not like if we went back to 1965 that we wouldn't be able to find a single person who would be like, women don't deserve the right to vote, or, we wouldn't be able to find someone who was saying, like, there were still people who were like, no, you should write women better. There were plenty of people back there who were saying that. Frank was just still behind the times.
You could also imagine an editor going, hey, tone it down.
Yeah, which his editor had a lot to say about a lot of this. Dune actually got denied or whatever, like 20-something times before it finally got published. So there was a lot. His editor had a lot to say about this.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a lot of denial. That's crazy. Especially if you think about like what publishing houses like. It wasn't like today where like everyone, like there's a publishing house that will have your niche for like, there are specific subsects for like this like imprint for a big publishers where we publish like weird sci-fi, like, oh, you have like weird lit, oh, here you go, like, oh, you want to write like queer horror, like there you go, like this is the imprint for you.
Stephen King wrote Dreamcatcher high in opioids after getting hit by a car. Book makes no fucking sense, but someone published it because of the name. Also, like I remember Clive Barker had issues getting his books published at the beginning.
I believe that.
Clive Barker's an interesting character. Like, I love that he kind of puts a lot of himself in it, but at the same time, he passionately turns against his own projects. Like, his feelings on Hellraiser are pretty out there, where he got mad because they turned his Hell Priest into Pinhead. He hates the name Pinhead. He fucking hates it.
Yeah.
And he even poked fun at his own shit in the Scarlet Gospel. And, for Dune, we had Kevin J. Anderson and Frank Herbert's son take over the prequels and the later stuff. And I'm not going to call it inferior, but it lacks the nuance that Herbert had, where he was very good at telling you what's going to happen, but at the same time, keep you kind of guessing. Where, I mean, it worked for you because, like, literally they laid out exactly who the traitor was, and you were like, well, maybe not.
Cidnya, since you haven't read this, what are your predictions for what you think is going to happen in the next book?
I think it's going to be every standard outsider invading a different culture, and I'm assuming this is where we're going to get a lot more of like the Orientalism of Dune. I'm sure this is where we're gonna get. I'm sure we're gonna get more ecology. Gonna wait for Paul to be the fucking worst. I'm kind of not excited to see these very stark flaws in the writing personally. It's to like see them manifest and unfold however they may. But I'm sure I'm gonna like it because I like villains. So like even though I've been like fuck Paul, it's not like a deep hatred that I'm going to hate reading. I'm probably gonna love every second of him being terrible. But like, ugh.
You're gonna need the glossary a lot once you get into the Fremen culture.
Yeah.
Like, I remember having to go to it constantly.
That's kind of my predictions. I'm not really sure plot-wise what's gonna happen. And I don't really know how things can go, but I could just assume that like these basic, I'm going to see these things in the writing, and I guess at least I'm prepared for it. At least Frank, drops it all in this info dump chapter, being like, hey, just so you know, if you're gonna read the rest of my book, here you go.
I compare Paul frequently to the Anakin Skywalker. where he's the chosen one, but the chosen one of what?
Yeah.
Of evil. I made a tweet
It depends
today
on your
where I was
definition of evil.
Yeah.
I made a tweet today where it's like, I don't know what his crimes against humanity are yet, but I know I hate him. That's my prediction for the rest.
He's a complicated character, and I think that makes him more interesting. Like, again, like, this is kind of peeking in the future,
Mhm.
where, like, he's so scared shitless of what he will become that he kind of second guesses himself, and he refuses certain things. Whereas we go more into like the religion and everything. Like the next book, like, is fucking way into the fucking religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so oh no, you can go, Jen.
I want to spend more time with Stilgar. Stilgar's got that big Fremen energy. Him and Leah Kynes.
You were about to say something, Cidnya?
Yeah.
Oh, I was I to add just one more thing. I wonder if I will get so frustrated that I might not finish. I'm thinking now. I'm like, I have a lot of strong feelings about this writing, and if like I'm probably going to finish it, but like I'm kind of scared of how this is gonna like. I'm kind of scared. I'm not gonna lie, just a little of like where this is going.
What do you think would be the moment that would make you just quit?
I think if there's anything like super graphic in terms of like violence against women, I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Bye. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because that's usually like a no.
Like a trope, or
Yeah, or if I see Baron Harkonnen, like if like it's one thing to like state it, but it's another thing to write a very like vicious scene of it.
It's always alluded to. Like, that's what Jen always says. It's kind of coded.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and like, you know, the last scene that we got with the Baron, it was not coded. He's like, well, basically, go ahead and send me up a boy, send me this specific boy, drug him so I don't have to. He doesn't struggle because I'm too tired to struggle, and he looks like that precious little boy, Paul Atreides. So that is clearly like, it's, if anyone was like, well, it doesn't actually say, I'd be like, bitch, yes it does. Bless you.
Thank you. And he always likes to use their vices against them.
Yeah.
He always knows what someone is into. Where he's like, oh, this guy likes whatever that drug music thing was. He's like, well.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking a look forward on where I think we should stop. There's 2 points that I was looking at, and one would be because we're basically on our pages.
That is a thick Irulan opener at the beginning of that next chapter. Holy shit.
So the page that we would be starting on is going to be 327, and we could either stop at there's a chapter that basically it ends with Baron Harkonnen, and that's page 388. I think for my mental health, I'd much rather, and it's a little bit of a much longer read because it would mean that we're ending at 410. But we're basically, I would say ending there at 410.
I say the 410 because I looked at the last line of that chapter and I was like, I'm completely with you.
Okay.
So that'd be a very sour note for me.
Yeah. So I would say it's going to be maybe a little bit more than what we just read, but I think that it's just going to be better.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's going to.
Opinion.
I also think that well, no, because you guys said it's going to start getting really like terminology heavy with the exploration of culture and religion. Because like these past readings went by really fast, so I was like anticipating that the rest of these readings would probably go super fast as well, but maybe not.
I mean, honestly, at this point, you might understand what the Fremen are talking about, but like on my first read as, you know, a very like ADD teenager, it was kind of rough for me.
Understandable. I do want to say that I have 2 spine cracks now.
I feel like we
Oh,
should.
boy.
Yeah,
Waiting.
I've got one big one maybe.
Mhm.
You can see right there.
Uh-huh. I kind of love that.
Yeah.
If I do end up liking this book, I'm having so like I think either I'm going to really love this book despite its flaws and like herald it as like one of my personal favorites and like be inducted into the cult of Dune, or I'm going to hate it a lot. I don't think there's any room in my body to say like I might just think it's okay. Like it's either going to be a 5 or like a 2.
So
Yeah.
the thing I noticed, if you make it through the whole way through,
Mhm.
you fall into 2 categories. You either love it or you're ambivalent.
Have you read Ready Player One? Did you read that book, Cidnya?
Me? No, absolutely not, and I will not.
Okay. Never mind. Because I was gonna say I feel like that's one of the books that you either love or you hate. And if you
Mhm.
started the book and didn't finish it, you obviously didn't like it. But if you started it, got to a certain point and finished it, you probably really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Because again, you heard Sid talk about like she got to page 100 and she like fucking hated this book. She hated it. She thought it was insulting her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even I had struggled the first time I read this book. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not the David Lynch Dune I just watched.
No. No.
And I'm not gonna lie, like I
enough,
love that movie when I first saw it. Like,
I was lucky enough where I was reading it with a friend of mine, but I just kind of like blew through it. So like we kind of chatted about it, so that was kind of fun. But
these talks have definitely helped because we all kind of see something different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a question. When you guys, oh no, sorry, you go. Sorry,
no, you go.
I was just inquiring, like when you both first finished, because I know you've read it at least 3 times. Like what were your initial like thoughts? Like I want to know before we go into, because like we're basically at the halfway point.
Yeah.
So I know what it reminded me of.
Mm-hmm.
Empire Strikes Back. The ending is unsatisfying because it's seeding into things to come. Like there is a resolution, but at the same time, it's like
Come back for book 2.
Yeah. For
Paul
me,
is so morally gray.
For me, I think that I had when I first read this book, I was like, I know that there's a reason why I'm supposed to really, really like it. And I feel like I know what it is, but why was it? It was a struggle to read. Why was it a struggle to read for me? And I think that that's the point that like Sid was trying to make, is that it makes me feel stupid. And that's why it gets a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to pretend to like get the book just to like feel smarter. And I feel like the people who had read it before me and that I had like, read their thoughts and opinions, I'm like, I feel like I owe it to this book to really enjoy it because everyone else enjoys it. But like it was a struggle for me to read. So I think that like the more you do think about it, the more you enjoy it. And especially these next couple of like go arounds of reading it have made me realize why I do enjoy it, if that makes sense.
Knowing the future and what it seeds in this book also, where I'm like, okay, I get it, because it seeds so much shit for the future books where you're like, this is fucking nonsense. And then when you get to those future books, you're like, okay, like that's what that means.
And then that is what makes rereading the book even that much more enjoyable.
So this is my 5th time, and between you and Sid and Jen, like you guys are noticing stuff I never noticed before, and where I'm like, oh,
I am
okay.
glad that I am reading it with you guys, because I think this is the best way you should read this book, just to get a more like holistic approach.
The episode you were gone, Jen, we talked about how they mentioned something about an animal, and I kind of started making an analogy of when they do the human to animal thing, the Bene Gesserit test. Did Leto basically be an animal in him popping the tooth? He was,
Like he was
willing
just
to
doing
gnaw
what he
his
was
own
told.
arm off. He was willing to gnaw his own arm off to get free.
Well, I think that he, because Paul at one point let it slip that he was going into a trap, right? And that he was going to die. Like, wasn't that something that Paul kind of like slipped to him at one point? So I think that like that was him accepting his fate, and just the tooth. Remember the tooth. So yeah, I definitely I get what you're saying with like him being an animal, like just, but ultimately he's gnawing. I get that analogy, but I don't, because it's like he's gnawing his own arm off to survive, but he literally didn't survive. Like
Willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, he literally like gnawed his own arm off just
Try and
to
beat someone
be
to death with
eaten.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
died a martyr.
And this is
For
where
For
Sid would
no
come in and be like,
cause.
"Don't you dare demean my dear Duke."
because honestly, if he, even if he would have, if he hadn't done the tooth thing, he probably would have survived, because they wanted to know where Paul and Jessica were. They probably would have tortured him but kept him alive.
I felt he would have been tortured to death. Because even like they're like Piter, they're like, "Oh, the searing flesh." You can't mistake that smell.
No, I'm team Jen, because like if because like the Baron is like, wait, I don't like knowing that we don't know where they are. I don't like knowing that there's like different possibilities about this. Is like, because it like looks bad on the Harkonnens.
He keeps
And
talking
then
about, he goes, possibilities. I don't like loose threads. I don't.
And even the Baron was like, I don't want to see the Duke go through this in such a public way. So I really do think that if the Duke hadn't like done the tooth thing, he would have been alive.
I'm gonna write an AU for I fixed Dune.
Thank you.
So far, who's your character that you've gravitated to?
I think Jessica is the baddest bitch on the planet, and I just want everything good for her going forward.
Well, after getting boy-splained.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, mood. Been there. I feel like Princess Irulan.
She's got the best fucking quotes. Like, literally, like...
Do we meet her in this book?
We do.
Is it
in
soon?
the movie, you meet her way sooner. Like, she shows up at that dinner party.
Oh, okay.
So, like, that was confusing me when I'm like, oh, that dinner party, we're going to meet Princess Irulan. Paul's going to do a Baron Harkonnen impression. I was like, oh no, that's the sci-fi series. Never mind.
Yeah.
Do we get to meet her soon? Or is it, like, further?
Midway?
Yeah.
So at the 75% point.
You will like her because she loves her books.
Good for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say Lady Jessica. I love her.
I'm a Gurney fan. This go around, like, I don't know, ever since they called him a lump of a man.
We don't know anything about the Atreides boys. I kind of just like completely forgot about them because I was so like, this is.
No, literally, they mention Duncan and don't mention another fucking person. Through fear, they don't mention Gurney.
I was like, this is Paul Jessica Town now.
And I sent you the Spider-Man 3 Peter Parker. Like, that's totally Paul the end.
I'm excited to. I don't know who Zendaya is supposed to play, but
she is Chani, who
you'll meet her.
He dreams of her.
Yeah,
she's who he dreamed of when he was talking to the Reverend Mother, who called him Usul.
Which I'm guessing we're gonna meet her in these upcoming readings, and so I'm excited about that. Actually, I just remembered that
Leah Kine's daughter, if I recall.
I don't know.
She's somebody. Very, very blue eyes. She was played by Sean Young in the David Lynch version. I forget who she was going to be played by in the Jodorowsky version. I'm sure someone popular at the moment.
I saw something the other day when I went to go when I was shopping, and I was picking up some tea. Did you know that David Lynch has a coffee?
I know Kyle MacLachlan has a wine. I didn't know that.
I bet it's damn
David
good
Lynch had
coffee.
Yeah.
Some damn good pie also.
I took a picture of it and it like something just like clicked. I'm like, wait, I saw something David Lynch related in the weirdest place, and it was in a supermarket.
Oh, did you see Jodorowsky went off on Villeneuve's version of Dune, saying that
I
it
can't
looks
wait to read
boring and
that.
formulaic, and
Yeah.
it will flop.
You know, I think when it comes to what Jodorowsky has done with movies, yes, of course it's going to look boring and formulaic because it's not a 14-hour acid trip like he wanted. So, like, of course, anything short of a 14-hour acid trip is going to look boring and formulaic. And that's the thing, though, is that if it's boring and formulaic, then it's probably honestly going to be more of a box office success.
Cidnya, if you get the chance, if you got Amazon Prime Instant or Amazon Prime in general, like, watch this documentary. It's fucking fascinating. Like, it literally, like, I fell into the trap of him talking because he's so just, he's a wacky dictator.
He sounds very fervent from the way that Jen speaks of his
Spiritual
like immense
warriors.
like passion for this book and the movie and the art form of making film.
So he was going to have his son be Paul and had him take martial arts to become a black belt to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Strange.
Highly recommend watching it.
It's fascinating, and if anything, the storyboards that Mobius did, Jean Giraud, it's a Bible about yay thick. It's the storyboarding of this movie.
I mean, I
and there's
suppose
only two that exist.
Watch it after we finish the book, though, right?
Yeah.
We're reading this really fast, by the way. I just want to make mention that, like, when I like logged the pages, and I was like, "Wow, we're at like the 50% mark." That's like crazy to me.
Which is the funny thing because, like, you're like, I can't get through this, and all of a sudden we're like, well, we're flying through.
It. Which makes me think that, like, which is why I'm like, my trajectory for this is either I'm just going to like grovel at the feet of Dune, or I'm just going to be like, why did I read this?
So the thing I always notice, I'm going to call it the George Lucas thing. You're going to see Frank Herbert as a hero or a villain. It can go either way, because some parts are brilliant. Some you just sit there scratching your head going, I don't know.
That was me this session. I feel like I've been such a bummer, and it's like, I promise I'm not trying to be.
Well, no, those chapters were bummers. Like, again, like, I think that was probably the worst written chapters, or at least him rushing through too much, where it just, I don't want to use the word problematic, but, like, you can't have that last chapter with Paul and just drop that much fucking information on the reader and just be like, fucking nailed it.
This is fine. Like, it's literally like, it's the coffee with the dog and everything on fire. Like, this is fine.
And Paul's like a robot at that point. He's just like, yes, mother. No,
I am
mother.
excited, though. I'm excited to see where it goes, because I legitimately have no clue. As an outsider, I don't know anything about this at all. So I am excited for it, but I'm also wary, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Consider this Paul's bar mitzvah. He just became a man in his awakening. And I'd say next we go into the Die Hard version of him.
Die Hard version of him?
Welcome to the party, pal. Like, he becomes John McClane, but with a religious twist.
Wow.
So we are at the hour and a half mark.
I was just about to say my phone is about to die. So
thank you everybody for joining us. We went out of timeline on it a lot. I'm sorry, but there was a lot to unpack. For those who came for Sid, sorry. I came here for Sid too, and she wasn't here. But we all have our personal lives that kind of affect things, and hers was very important to her. So we have our reading instructions. What page were we ending at again?
411.
411.
Yeah. So
Okay.
411 starts the new chapter.
Yeah, so 410 is the last page.
Yeah.
So join us next Monday, and we have on next Saturday, Ferengian Vigilante joining Jen and I to talk Reanimator, which I have not watched since I was like 9 years old, which I should not have been watching.
Very cool stuff, though.
And apparently Gambit now set a schedule that he wants the 25th for us to do book club, which is Sunday the 25th. He wants to do the last Sunday of every month for book club now.
That's perfect because
so a set schedule.
That's perfect.
I like how he just texts this randomly, like. So thank you everybody for joining us, Barbarian Kung Fu and Jonah from I Freaking Love Comics.
Judah.
Jonah. Oh god damn it. I got biblical for a minute, Jonah the Whale. So thank you everybody. Yes, I'm drunk. As always, I know our viewer count's going down every week, but we're here for the diehards. We're here for the So take care and wash your hands and vote. Definitely vote.
Bye.